Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today. I'm Emily Miller, and I'm very excited to be part of Team Rising.
Team Rising is in the house, and I'm Colin Rogero, proud to be a longtime part of the show. We're going to discuss Israel with Zed Jilani, and Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal also joins us.
But first, President Biden is in NATO in Brussels today, and he just wrapped up his G7 summit yesterday in London. Unfortunately, he didn't make it through without any of his well-known senior moments. Take a listen.
Russia has engaged in activities which we believe are contrary to international norms, but they have also bitten off some real problems they're going to have trouble chewing on. And for example, the rebuilding of Syria, of Libya, they're there. And as long as they're there without the ability to bring about some order in the region, and you can't do that very well without providing for the basic economic needs of people. So I'm hopeful that we can find an accommodation where we can save the lives of people for example, in Libya.
To welcome those who have just joined us, bringing some pretty spectacular weather with them, Prime Minister Modi, President Ramaphosa, President Moon, in just a minute.
And the President of South Africa.
And the President of South Africa, as I said earlier.
Oh, you did?
I did not. I certainly did.
Oh, Uncle Joe, the gaffe machine returned. So let me give one to you. Go for it, Emily.
What? I mean, it's so funny. And, we have this long-standing policy in America. We don't criticize our presidents when they're overseas. So I am just...
So are we criticizing him, or are we having fun
of
here?
him right now.
Are we having fun here with
If you
Uncle
let
Joe's
me do it, I'll totally do it.
But look, by all means, we're not attacking him. It's funny.
How do you
really
not know
funny.
Libya and Syria, the difference? You're president. Plus, not only is he president, he's been in Washington for, before we were alive, right? So, how does he not know Libya from Syria? And also, how does he not know the South African president? I mean, it's just...
What I can't understand is, did he bite off more than chew more than he could bite, or bite off more than he could chew? And then the whole boxing...
I'm doing this
the boxing portion was actually pretty funny, too. He was up there and he was ready to throw some punches, and I don't know. I find it comedic. I actually really enjoy watching gaffes for all politicians as they do their public...
I do when he's here. I could watch him make his mistakes over and over again, and I find it sort of slightly sweet, because like your grandpa kind of saying things. But when it's overseas, I just wonder how this is coming across to other heads of state.
I hear what you're saying.
Is America, do they know what's going on? Does he just totally senile guy running their country?
Look, I think he led with, we're back at the table, and everything else he said after that was probably okay with our allies, because that's a distinct attitudinal change towards our allies in Western Europe. And that's a good thing.
And that actually is a bad thing, because I do wonder so much of the Europeans thinking that this is good because it's not Donald Trump who scares them, because we were so appeasing before. Now we're back to it's Obama's vice president, so we're back to this Obama presidency, and we're going to be back doing greenhouse gases and all your nonsense stuff.
Well, we've already signed that course, so that's a done deal. We're back in the climate exchange. And look, I think if we're able to be friends with our friends in the future, instead of chastising our friends, it's probably a good thing. But we'll see more as we move forward in this trip. Some COVID news out of the G7 summit. President Biden and 6 world leaders called for a fresh probe into the origin of the coronavirus. Biden also confirmed the United States would donate 1 billion vaccines globally. This, as a New York Times investigation reveals that employers can mandate you get vaccinated, while the Biden administration issues guidance that federal employees can return to work without being vaccinated. What in the world is going on? We got one and the other simultaneously.
Which is
what are we doing here?
Which is it? I mean, first of all, you can't mandate somebody put a vaccine in their body against their will. But I guess you can?
Look, I happen to agree with that. I think, what we're talking about here is that private organizations can define what they want in their workplace. However, the federal government at the same time is saying, nah, we're not worried about that. You don't have to get vaccinated if you want to. So it's wildly contradictory. As companies look to the federal government for some kind of guidance here, they're not really getting it. They're getting a conflicting kind of set of operations, and that's problematic for employees at the end of the day, because they don't know, do I have to get vaccinated before I go back or not?
I agree. It's complicated, and the poor people in HR are like, oh my gosh, we're getting 1,000 questions on this. Because there's a quarter, first of all, half the population has not been vaccinated of the working age group. The older people are like 75, 80% now. So, but they're not going back to the workplace. They're retired, we assume. So it's these people, our age groups, that haven't, the 20 to 60 people, we're about 50%, 50%. And we got to go back to work. So where do we go from here? And it's a little confusing for people. And there's going to be, we've seen from polls, about 25% of the population will not get vaccinated. And so if they work for the government, that's fine, because it's the government can't mandate it. If you work for a private company, you're going to see a lot of lawsuits.
I would imagine that would be the case. I also think that, as we deal with a new hybrid workplace, and when do we have to go in and when don't we have to go in, and as people adjust to that, maybe a lot of people actually are vaccinated and they're just saying, hey, I'm not vaccinated, so I'm going to do my work from home instead of having to actually go into the office, which might be a good technique. I don't know. I'm not saying that I encourage people to be dishonest, but it might work out in their favor if they enjoy their work from home days more than they actually enjoy going
I'll give a little tidbit if people want to do that. First of all, no one knows about my health. It's no one's business but my own and my doctor's.
Agreed.
So I have said this publicly and continue to say it to you, as well as you're sitting next to me in like 3 feet. I have been vaccinated. And I have not been vaccinated.
Oh, good.
And you can just choose to which one you want to identify with. I choose to identify with both, depending on the day and the minute and the hour. So if the boss wants me to come to work and I want to stay home, I'm not vaccinated. If I want to come to work and
then you are.
Do whatever I want to do, I'm vaccinated. There you go.
And look, I think
everyone's going to lie, is my point. All you need is that stupid card from, make it up. They don't have Kinko's anymore. FedEx, whatever. We're all going to make them up. Everyone's got the fake cards. You can do whatever you want.
This is the interesting thing, and I wonder how people are actually going to address that, because those cards are not that complicated. It's not as if there's a national database to do this. And to be quite frank, I have traveled in recent months overseas, and I carry my vaccination card with me, and nobody cares about that right now.
Really?
Right now, every country, when I end up at the border and end up in customs, I show them the vaccination card, and they say, no, we're not really worried about that. Do you have a COVID test? And I have to show them the COVID test.
How do you do that? Just because I've not done this, so how does that work?
Yeah, when you show up, depending on the country, you have to have, normally within 96 or 48 hours, a COVID test that shows that you are negative. You do not carry the virus. But showing them your vaccination card really doesn't mean anything, at least in the early travels now. Now, I know that Europe is starting to change some of these things, but the real question is, as you brought up quite succinctly, how do you know the difference between which card is real and which one is not?
Right.
I mean, I've got mine, and I could have it's handwritten, half of it, and I could have very easily made it up if I want to. Now, again, my background is in creative, and I was a designer for a while, so I could make
You have a side business.
I've got many side businesses.
You have a side business.
I've got many side businesses.
So if you need a fake test, can you do fake test cards as well?
I certainly cannot and will not.
We'll tell you what's on our radars next.